everybody, this is Cal Banyan, Cal Banyan's Hypnosis, etc. And I'm back with you for part number 4 with Brenda Titus on working with victims of sexual assault and abuse in a hypnosis practice. If you have not seen the previous 2 episodes, go down there. Right down there, below here are links to the previous episodes. So that brings me to my usual opening statement. If you're watching this video anywhere except calbanyan.com, YouTube or Facebook or anywhere else, you got to go to calbanyan.com, because right below this video on calbanyan.com, we've got additional content with regard to this video. We've got links, text, graphics, and even more importantly, hundreds of other such hypnosis training videos. Let me introduce you to my co-host for this series, and that is Brenda Titus, and she is a 5-pather, a 7-path teacher, a hypnotist, consulting hypnotist, hypnotherapist, and an individual with gobs and gobs of enthusiasm for growing in the profession, helping others grow in the profession, helping her clients to just soar. How does she do that? Well, she's got the right background, she's got the right training, she has a bachelor's degree in sociology, an MA in criminology, and she works at our center where she gets to rub elbows with people in the know. How you doing, Brenda?
I'm great, Cal. Thanks. I'm happy to be here today. Thank you so much for having me here to talk about this topic. Before we get to that topic, let's tell you all a little bit about Cal. Cal is the head of the Banyan Hypnosis Center. He started this center back in Minnesota, started a very successful practice and center there, developed the 5-path 5-phase advanced transformational hypnotherapy system of hypnotherapy that I use with all of my clients. He developed the 7-path self-hypnosis system for kind of that mind, body, and spirit approach to working with self-hypnosis, so that our clients and ourselves can really work on things on our own as well. And Cal came out here to Tustin, California. We have a gorgeous training center here, as well as beautiful hypnotherapy offices, rooms, treatment rooms, and I'm very pleased to be one of the hypnotherapists that works here at the Banyan Hypnosis Center, and I'm happy to be here today.
Wow. All right. Quick little commercial.
Yeah.
You know we got to get it every time. Well, you want to become a hypnotherapist, or if you're already a hypnotherapist, consulting hypnotist, and you want to take your practice to the next level, then you go through our National Guild of Hypnotists approved Banyan Hypnosis certification course. Become certified in 5-path hypnotherapy and 7-path self-hypnosis, and I'll guarantee you 7-path self-hypnosis, you might go, I don't know about self-hypnosis. How important is that? It's going to be the biggest surprise, most fantastic thing of the entire course. But when does it come up next? July 15th through the 26th, 2013, and October 14th through the 25th, 2013. And be there, be square. And hey, what do you think about what I said there, Brenda, with the 7-path?
I think it's fabulous. And actually, you know what is really neat is going through the training and having your opportunity to learn 7th path in the way that we do. It just opens you up and heals you so that you can really actually then start doing this work. Letting go of some of these things that we work with in hypnosis. It's incredible.
How about a little special bonus when someone gets to go through time tunneling technique in class?
Oh, I got time tunneled in class, and it was definitely amazing. Opened up my eyes to a whole other world. It's like what you think is, just like we say with our clients, what you think is going on, and then there's a little bit deeper. And so to be able to experience that in class and be able to have Cal actually provide you with some work, do some work on you, so to speak, it's just incredible.
And you know, in addition to coming to class and letting me do some training with you, also we have Brenda. She's there coaching the practice that happens before and after class each day. We also have Tally. And we also typically have students who've come back to retake the class because we allow our grads, space permitting, to come back and retake the class for free up to a year after they graduate. So it's just awesome. All right, take it away, Brenda.
All right. So yes, and actually I took the July training last year, and it was an amazing time in my life. And I look forward to seeing people here soon for the July training as well, being able to help coach them through and support them through their process, and also to be a part of, you know, what goes on as they start opening themselves up, doing their seventh path self-hypnosis, as well as just learning all of the amazing things they're going to learn in that class. So look forward to seeing our new students coming up soon. And so today we're going to wrap up our series on working with victims of sexual assault and sexual abuse. We're going to tackle a few just kind of final elements of this topic. So just a little bit again about my background. So obviously I'm a 5-path hypnotherapist, so a lot of my experience and training from Cal's 5-path and 7-path training from last year definitely play into all of the things that I'm sharing with you through this process. Before I came here, I worked for 15 years at the local rape crisis center, actually largely as the supervisor. So I have lots of experience in working with victims of sexual assault and sexual abuse, as well as supervising advocates in a variety of capacities, going out to the hospital and when people are reporting their assault and going through their forensic medical exam, doing hotline response, doing support groups, doing short-term counseling, self-defense classes, and all of that. So I have a good amount of background. I did also, as I was preparing for this series, I also took part in a PTSD training with Don Motton as just kind of a way to brush up on how hypnosis and PTSD kind of work together. So it definitely reinforced a lot of the things that I'd already brought to the table, but it's definitely valuable training for people who don't have any PTSD or trauma experience to check that out too. So in prior episodes, we spent a lot of time doing some background about how it is that you're even going to come across people who've been sexually assaulted or sexually abused in your offices, setting up rapport, being prepared for anything, going through age regression, again, being prepared for anything, doing your forgiveness of others work, and today we're going to hit on forgiveness of self work. We're going to talk a little bit about some secondary gain issues to be aware of, and I'm just going to offer a few final thoughts that I have about working with victims of sexual assault and some other things you might want to think about. So, I consider, for me, forgiveness of self-work, really when it comes down to it, most of the clients that I've seen, really this is kind of that cherry on top, miracle of miracles, where they go, oh, that's what was going on. And a lot of people know. I mean, you know, we walk around and we can kind of say, I'm probably my worst enemy or whatever. But when you really stop and realize you're your worst enemy and you can't get away from yourself, you're there with all the negative self-talk all the time. That's why forgiveness of self is so important. So is there anything that you'd like to add about that, Cal, before we continue?
I was just thinking, sometimes clients will say, like we mentioned before, I've done my forgiveness work. That's when I like to say something like, oh, so you've done your forgiveness work? Then this should be easy. And then you just proceed, right?
Exactly. And you know, I consider the forgiveness of self, I kind of call it my like secret weapon. And there are some clients I wish, you know, I usually don't do it until session 4, maybe even session 5. I wish I could do sometimes forgiveness of self. I know that I need to get through all my other steps first just to know what is going on a little bit deeper. But forgiveness of self is really, like I said, that just my secret weapon, that cherry on top that just kind of brings it all together. In terms of dealing with sexual assault issues, So we live in a very victim-blaming culture. Actually, I think the more I'm out of victim services, where that's like everything that I do, I realize we're in a blaming culture, a people-blaming culture, always. So we have a tendency when something happens to someone to look at them like, well, what could they have done better? What, even when we're talking about somebody who was a child, So if you think about how we can look at someone else with that blame, think about the kind of blame that someone who has been assaulted is carrying towards themselves. Again, even if they were a child, and I've gone through this with so many people, they will woulda, coulda, shoulda themselves all over the place, and it's like, and I'll literally stop, and this was, more in my crisis work, and I'll literally stop and I'll say, you were 5. Like, what were you going to do? And they'll kind of stop and go, but, oh, yeah, you're right. It's like you have to kind of, jar them out of that, but they hang on to that. Self-blame can be about a lot of things. Getting about their decision-making that got them into the situation that they were in that led to the assault. Maybe their self-blame goes to not telling, not making it stop. If they know, like, they can look back and say, well, if I would have told right away, it would have stopped right away. Sometimes, people who have been assaulted, especially as children, they got something out of that attention. Our bodies are made the way that they are. Maybe there was even some sexual pleasure that went along with the assault because they didn't understand, what was going on. So that attention, then that can really play into, all of these things. Maybe they feel, in one situation I had someone who carried so much guilt and self-blame over the fact that they weren't the last victim. They were a victim of someone who, molested many people before that client and many people after him. And he kept going back to this like, well, but I could have made it stop. I could have put an end to it. And he carried that blame year after year after year. So that's why this forgiveness of self is so important. And just the same, it's like you get someone in hypnosis, and in addition to their guard being down, they just become so willing to say these things that maybe they wouldn't have said. They might have thought it or felt it, but to actually provide them with that opportunity to say to themselves in the mirror, you hurt me, and there they go. And it's just an amazing process. So what would you like to add to that, Cal?
I think you're just rolling along just fine. Keep going.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you. So, it's so important to, and I've been known to set this up with someone if I think that they're going, if I suspect that they're going to think that I'm adding to the blame or the judgment in any of it, I might even indicate, before we go into our session, this is a great session. So excited. This is just going to clear a lot of stuff out for you. I do this with all of my clients. I always try to make sure they know they're not special, that I think that there's something that they need to forgive with themselves, or that there's something wrong with them that we're doing this. I make sure that they understand that there's a reason that this session, doing forgiveness of self, is so important, because in the end, we all hold ourselves to above and beyond, and it's this clearing this out that is going to make this huge difference for them. So I always try to make sure that they understand that I'm not adding to that blame as well. I wanted to talk again, at least a little bit, as we're, like I said, concluding this series, about a couple of additional things. We have in 5-Path, obviously, 5 phases. We talk so much here on the podcast about, the first 4, going through, preparing a client, getting them into hypnosis, building the rapport, then going on to age regression and forgiveness work. And then there's that 5th phase that, we don't talk about very much. We don't do very much, but we need to be very aware of, which is doing parts work with people where they have some sort of secondary gain. And the reality is that a lot of our clients really have a lot of things to lose. On my intake paperwork, I actually have a part that says, if I give up this behavior, if I change, I stand to lose. And for some people, they stand to lose. I stand to lose, this weight, or I stand to lose a bad habit. And for other people, if they change, if they get better, they could lose attention, they could lose benefits, they could, financial benefits if people, are on disability because of their PTSD. They stand to lose this habit that they have of just being, even the identity of being a victim. So be aware of the fact that, your clients, even with, something that you think, sexual assault, how could they possibly benefit from that? Just to be very aware of the fact that there are some deeply ingrained patterns. It's very hard for them to imagine life without that, which is why, doing age progression with these clients as well, showing them their future without the stigma or the pain or the difficulty of this abuse history will be very valuable. So is there anything that you'd like to add, Cal, as we talk about secondary gain and in these types of clients?
Yeah, I'm really careful about how I do this, and I'm very, very successful with it. And that is, when I'm, even in the age regression, even in the forgiveness work, and even when I'm dealing with secondary gain, I always work to see if I can find, the other side of the coin, the silver lining, the positive. And I say, you have every right to be angry about this. You've got anyone who's been through what you've been through be feeling exactly the same way as you've been feeling. But often, we can look back with hindsight and find how some way we may have benefited for it because of past problems and challenges and pain. For example, maybe someone that's just, their life was perfect. I mean, they're the loving mother and father, a safe environment, great education, great home to live in, and everything was just like a bed of roses. And somehow, because of the lack of challenge in their life, they really didn't become as strong as other people that have overcome adversity. Perhaps you can point out in some way that you've benefited. Maybe it's because you're a better mother, or because of a profession you've chosen, or you're more careful with your children, whatever it is. How did you benefit? And so I really hammer that down. And then also in the secondary gain, one of the most important things is that we don't always go into phase 5 and do secondary gain work, but when people have trouble moving on from the issue after the cause of the problem has been removed, then we have to look at that secondary gain issue. It's something that we're very good at as 5-pathers that I don't think any other profession is as good at. And what we're going to do is we're going to find out what the benefit is, and then find out how they can come out ahead, have more benefit by letting go of the old problem. How's that?
Exactly. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I realize it's so rare that we do phase 5, but I think it's important for you to just kind of have it tucked away in your head, not necessarily to do phase 5, although there's the potential, but to be aware that sometimes clients are going to consciously or subconsciously rebel against some of their work because they're going to get better. So I know occasionally that happens and it can be frustrating. So, just be aware of that. As we are kind of finishing up our series, again, like I said, I wanted to talk about another thing that I definitely learned over my years working in the Rape Crisis Center, as well as a lot of my own just personal experience, is that timing can really play into things. We're very in touch with time of year that things happened, time, seasonal shifts and things like that, and people who have been sexually assaulted, especially where they were assaulted on a particular day as opposed to ongoing abuse, the anniversary of their assault can be a very stigmatizing event time for them every year. So you might notice, like, their too much behavior might kind of kick in more. Their depression, or eating too much or drinking too much may just kind of be even more right around when they were assaulted. Or the holiday time is a huge time for people who are survivors of child sexual abuse, because they're going to either go back into their environment and see their family who sets them off, or they have left their family and they're still feeling bad about it. So I always want to encourage people to be sensitive about what time of year it is when you're seeing clients, if there's anything that's going to play in to your work with them, especially with survivors in terms of anniversaries or seasons or what have you. And so I wrote an article recently for the hypnosis.org e-zine. It's called "Why Now? Maximizing Birthdays and Seasonal Cycles in Your Hypnosis Practice." So please be sure to check that out, because I gave far more than I had time really to touch on here, but I just want you to be aware of that I had a friend who every year it was kind of that, like, knowing her anniversary was coming up of her assault, and it would be very difficult because things would kick in for her emotionally, and all of us would support her through that. But you as hypnotherapists out there, you might not realize that, not being tapped in to Rape Crisis Center the way that I was. So I wanted to pass that along. And speaking of that, I definitely encourage you to partner with your local Rape Crisis Center, so that if or when you have a client and things like this come up, they have resources, because there are free resources that are available in every community through the Rape Crisis Center. There's short-term crisis intervention counseling available to deal specifically with their sexual assault and sexual abuse. They have support groups usually. They have self-defense classes. Lots of things that are out there, so know that you're not alone. And another thing for you to consider is that all Rape Crisis Centers are required to provide training to their community. It's largely so that they can develop a volunteer base to go and answer the hotline or do hospital response, but it's also available for the community as training. It's usually pretty inexpensive, it's very intense, and I highly recommend it, especially if you start really seeing a lot of people who are sexually assaulted or sexually abused, so that you can really have a foundational knowledge about sexual assault, as well as what the response is in your community, so that you can help your clients if that becomes an issue. And with that, I think I've covered everything I was planning on covering on this topic. Do you have anything else to add, Cal?
Oh, yes. I have some questions. I remember how you hung a question on me in the end of the last episode.
No, I don't remember that.
Okay, just a couple easy ones.
Hit me.
Okay, what do you wish counselors or intervention professionals knew? What do you wish they knew?
I wish, well, I'm definitely doing a lot of work with this, with therapists that I connect with, my friends and colleagues. I want to be sure that they know that I'm not here to take their client away from them. I'm here to partner with them to help them make some amazing progress with their clients. So I'm always very careful about, making sure that if someone is in therapy, that I'm, that they're still going and doing their talk therapy while they're seeing me, or that they know, we're going to go through things at a pretty quick pace, and then I want you to really process and talk it over with your therapist. So I definitely think having the therapists that refer to me know that I'm here to partner with them and help get their client through a block so that they can continue their work.
Beautiful.
And of course, I always tell them that look at me, look at how much I love doing it and how much success I've already had. So, because I can imagine, in my former field, I might have looked at this and said, well, that's kind of interesting. I'm not so sure, but now being on the other side, I have to, go and be sure that people know that it really is effective and helpful and useful. So that's what I go out and tell all the therapist friends that I have all the time.
Very good. Here's another question for you real quick.
Yes.
Do you use 7-Path with these clients?
I do. Kind of depends. I'm still working on getting my skills really solid on teaching it. So I'm still working on excuse me, on some of those things. So what I really need to do, I just keep, plugging away, and with each person kind of learning new skills to, one of the things I find is that when people come in for session 1, there's so much to deal with, and so one of the things that I was kind of learning recently is to, that maybe waiting until session 2 to kind of start doing some 7th path is also very helpful, just because they're so overwhelmed. So still working on getting my feet really firmly planted in doing both 7th path and 5 path at the same time.
How do you find that it's useful to have 7th path?
For the people who are prepared to really do their work on their own, it gives them an opportunity then to continue that work, because they're only going to see me for an hour and a half a week. But then to practice it every day and to open up and heal from the inside out, to go through the recognitions and to understand from a deep level inside of themselves all of the elements, it reinforces then what we do in session to remind themselves that they can overcome anything. Trying to use words other than the actual recognitions.
Cool. All right. Do you teach them the secret language of feelings, or give them a book?
Oh, yes. I am definitely huge on the secret language of feelings. I think, oh my gosh, like that book, just when I started reading it, and then I gave it to my parents, and I said, oh my gosh, look at this. And I'm huge on actually having my clients read The Secret Language of Feelings, and their families to read it as well, because that definitely just helps me do my work, but it helps them actually do their own work after they've left me for the week.
Yeah, and it also helps you to have like a vocabulary and an understanding, and it also lets them understand why you're doing the deep emotional work, right?
Definitely. I always set up, that this is emotional work that we're doing, but then I, kind of send them home with homework as well to help seal the deal.
Absolutely. One last thing, would you consider doing a group on our Hypnospace on this topic?
Sure.
Okay, good. That's it. All right, wrap it up.
All right. Well, I am Brenda Titus, and I can be reached at brenda@ochypnotherapy.com. I am on our Hypnospace. I already have a group there called The Confidence Game. Please go check that out and become a fan of my group over there. And it sounds like one day in the future I will also have a group over there as we do some working on the site and putting together a new group for working with trauma and victims. So I think that's all I have. Oh, and of course I'm here at the Banyan Hypnosis Center. So that's it. Cal, take it away.
All right. Hey, folks, I haven't mentioned it in a while. Become a VIP member of this website. Why? Well, first of all, you'll get instant access to a page that has a listing of every single podcast we've done, audio and video. And each one of those titles is linked to the podcast. So it's really cool because you can just go down the list. You can do Control F and search for terms. And it's just like an encyclopedia of all the things we've ever brought you. So become a VIP member. There's a button up there or over there or over there or down there. And just become a VIP member. Then the other thing is, if you're on Facebook, and who's not nowadays, please go to facebook.com/Hypnosis ETC and friend us or fan us or whatever they're calling it nowadays, and you'll get the inside scoop. We're always posting very interesting news things that are going on in the world of hypnotism. We're talking about the inside stuff that's going on with regard to the program and that kind of stuff. Plus, you can leave comments and questions there for future podcasts. Okay, that's it. Hey, happy summer. Go out there, have some fun. I know I will.
Wahoo!
All right, Cal Banyan signing off. This recording is the property of Cal Banyan and the Banyan Hypnosis Center for Training and Services, Incorporated. All rights reserved, for private use only, may not be duplicated without permission. For contact information, go to www.hypnosiscenter.com.